Why, hello. Next up today, or next up, not today, like it's repeating, you know what I mean. Standard form to slope-intercept form. So, first off, let's define standard form and slope-intercept form. So, slope-intercept, we started yesterday, y equals mx plus b. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. Now, a, b, and c are all integers, meaning positive and negative whole numbers, but also we usually will say a is also a positive integer. It's always going to be a positive number. Now, we're going to be starting with that form anyways and putting into slope-intercept form. Now, you can go both ways. We're just going to be going from standard to slope-intercept right now. And the key is going to be, or the basic premise of it is, you solve for y. These are literal equations, basically. We've done this before, and when we started with it, we said, hey, eventually we're going to solve and put it in slope-intercept form. Guess what? That's what we're at right now. So if I had, for example, 2x plus 3y equals 6, that's in standard form. I want to put it into slope-intercept form, and the basics is just solve for y. So what we're doing today is nothing new. It's just giving it a new name and saying, oh, this is solving for y. This is putting it from standard into slope-intercept form. So if I'm solving for y, the first thing I want to do is move over anything that's not added or subtracted, or that is added or subtracted, with the y. So I have a minus 2x. It's positive 2x. I subtract 2x. And this is why when we did this in the first couple of weeks, we said, let's put the x first, not 6 minus 2x, because we want to write it in slope-intercept form, because that's what we're doing now. Now, the next part, I haven't gotten y all by itself. I need to divide everything by 3. I got to get the y all by itself. 3 and y are attached by multiplying. So I end up with here, negative 2/3 x. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So then if they ask the question now, what's the slope? Well, it's negative 2/3. What's the y-intercept? Well, it's 2. I couldn't have gotten that just from looking at it in standard form. It doesn't just like, oh, 2 is the slope. No, you have to put it into slope-intercept because that form allows you to say that's the slope and that's the y-intercept. So that's where we have to go and solve each of those. Okay. Now, let's say I have one that's 4x minus 5y equals negative 15. So even now that you know this is solving for y, you can think through the steps of, this is always going to be the first thing we'll do is we add or subtract whatever the x1 is. Okay, so I subtract 4x in this case. Most of the time it's going to be subtracting because this number will be positive anyways. So we have negative 5y equals negative 4x minus 15. And then our next step is we divide by the number in front of y. So I divide everything by negative 5. So when I do that, because I'm getting y all by itself, negative 4 divided by negative 5 turns to 4/5 x. Why? Two negatives divided or multiplied together give you a positive. So same thing here. Negative 15 divided by negative 5. 15 divided by 5 gives us 3. So when I'm looking at now, well, what's the slope? Well, what's the number in front of x? 4/5. What's the y-intercept? What's the number by itself, or the constant? 3. Okay. All right, let's take a look at one more. Say I have 7x minus 4y equals 17. Pick some weird numbers. Not that 17 is weird. I guess just prime makes it weird. So I'm solving for y. I'm putting from standard into slope-intercept. So that first part we said is move over the x's. So if it's positive 7x, I subtract 7x. We're left with negative 4y. What I did to this side, I did to the right side. So negative 7x plus 17, put the x first. Okay, how do I know plus 17? Because it's positive 17. Now I divide everything, and I do it individually by negative 4, because that's what's in front of the y. So here, two negatives give me a positive 7/4 x. A positive divided by a negative is going to be a negative, and 17 divided by 4 is just that. So I purposely picked one where we have a fraction for the y-intercept, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. We just can leave it as it is. If we graphed it, we'll talk about that in a second. We'll change it a little bit, because how do you graph 17/4? People start to turn it into slope, but it's not slope. So here, the slope is what's in front of x. Just because the y-intercept is a fraction doesn't all of a sudden make it a slope. Okay? Now, if you were to graph this, I would strongly recommend that you turn this into a decimal or a proper fraction, a mixed number. So 4 goes into 17 4 times, and you have 1/4 left over. Oh, I know how to graph negative 4 and 1/4, or if you looked at it as a decimal, negative 4.25. I could go down 4 1/4, and then I could go, if I wanted to use the slope, up 7, right 4, up 7, right 4. But when you write it in the equation, I can leave it as a simplified improper fraction. So we take things, we change them from standard to slope-intercept. Is it new? The terminology, that's it. This is what we did when we solved literal equations and we said solve them for y. We were preparing ourselves for this. So really it should just be that practice again of taking things from standard to slope-intercept, is taking things in one form, solving for y, and rearranging the equation basically. Okay? Have a great day.